Welcome, everyone. We are so happy to have you. Super excited to see so many of you interested in learning more about careers in public service. My name is Angela Kimmy. I am the Acting Deputy City Administrator for the City of Vernon. We are going to take you through, first, ¿hay alguien que necesita información en español? Anybody online?
No, no hands raised.
Okay, muy bien. All right, so moving on. So welcome to the City of Vernon. We can go to the next slide. So these are the things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to cover some demographic information about the city, things you probably will be surprised to learn about the City of Vernon. Our city clerk will give you an introduction to public service. Our Director of Human Resources will talk to you about careers in public service. And we'll close with operations overview. So a representative from each city department will come and talk to you about what their core function is. They'll talk to you about educational paths within their kind of fields of specialty, and also careers in their department. We'll take 2 or 3 questions after each presentation, and then we'll take more questions at the end, just to make sure we manage our time and we don't run too far over. So here at the City of Vernon, our motto is that Vernon means business. We are a very close-knit community. We have excellent public safety. We have expert public health services. We have affordable and reliable utility services. The City of Vernon offers electric, water, natural gas, and fiber optic internet services. This public health services and utility services they're uncommon for most cities. That's another thing that makes the City of Vernon unique. So can we move the Zoom window there? So the City of Vernon is 5.2 square miles. So geographically, we're pretty small. We're just south of downtown LA. We have a daytime population of 55,000 people. What that means is the people who travel into the city every day to work at the businesses here in the city. There are 1,800 businesses in the City of Vernon. This also is part of what makes the City of Vernon unique. It's uncommon for a city to have so many industrial businesses the way that we do. And our population is at 180 residents. Another thing that makes Vernon unique. But we're working on the residents, so we're growing. This slide gives some examples of some of the businesses that are here in Vernon, your Popcornopolis, your Farmer John bacon and hot dogs, and Amazon is here. And if you look in your cabinet, you look at the foods that are in your freezer and just flip that package over and see where it's made, you will be surprised how many of the day-to-day products that you use in your home are actually made in Vernon. I do this, and every day I'm still surprised to find products that I've used forever and just never noticed that, oh, this is a Vernon-based company. So the City of Vernon kind of developed as this uniquely industrial city because logistically it's situated perfectly to be a city of manufacturing and production. There are the freeways, all of the freeways that surround the City of Vernon, the Freeway 5, the 60, the 710, the 10, the rail lines. There are 3 major rail lines that run through the city, and the city's proximity to the ports of Long Beach and the Port of Los Angeles. So no matter what's being made or produced in the City of Vernon, if it's going to Pasadena on an Amazon delivery, or if it's going to China on a huge ship that's leaving out of the Port of Los Angeles, Vernon is perfectly logistically situated to get your goods and services out into the hands of consumers around the world. And for your introduction of public service, it's my pleasure to introduce Lisa Pope, our Vernon City Clerk.
Great. Okay, perfect. Hi, welcome everybody. So the public sector. Public sector is when you work for a local government, county government, state or federal agency. Private sector is when you work for a private business, business owners, corporations, you get paid bonuses at the end of the year, all that sort of thing. So we are a local government and public sector employees. All of us here are in the public sector. The California Constitution, you've all heard of the Constitution, right? Some of you might be able to say the first couple lines. It provides the process for how cities are formed and the procedures under which cities follow. The California Government Code classifies cities as either general law or charter cities. General law cities follow the codes, all of the codes of the state of California. Charter cities can change some of their laws by taking a measure to the people and asking them to vote on it. Usually charter cities have more restrictive laws than the state of California. Sometimes they're just a little bit different, but they can't be less restrictive. I have an elections code down there. It's a whole book on how the elections code of the state of California, but I forgot to bring it up here. So I'll show you guys later. You may have heard of the California Vehicle Code. Any parents gotten a ticket before? Right? They're all back there raising their hands. The police officer will write on that ticket, California Vehicle Code number, whatever it is, for speeding or parking in the wrong place. You'll see them on signs. Sometimes a parking spot might say, you know, parking prohibited between 2 and 5 per California Vehicle Code section. So all of those codes are the rules that we as cities have to follow. Vernon is a charter city, so we do have a charter that has some rules that are a little bit different than the state of California. We had some election rules that change a little bit different from the states, and that's because the people in the city voted to allow those changes. Working in the public sector can provide a great deal of satisfaction. As soon as you get up in the morning, you see the work of public sector employees. The water that comes into your house for your shower is provided by a public sector. When the people cutting the grass along the freeways, that's a federal government public sector employee. Road signs are, depends on if it's in the city or on the highway, the city or state or county government are the ones that maintain those signs. Potholes, if you've noticed in the city of Vernon, there are no potholes, but if you go just outside the city, you can tell where the city of LA starts or the unincorporated areas, because that's where the potholes start. Us city of Vernon employees take care of our streets, right? And then parks, if you enjoy a park where you live, that's maintained by usually the local government. Or if it's a national park, it might be maintained by the federal government, right? Does anyone live in Vernon? No? Okay. Well, your cities do all the same stuff too, whatever city you might live in. So the primary purpose of the public sector is to provide a service without gaining a profit. Private sector businesses, they want to make money, right? Public sector, we just are here to do our job and we don't make any money. Oh, the right arrow. There we go. Okay, so I wanted that song, Who Runs the World, Girls, right? I don't know who sings it, but that was supposed to come up right now. But who runs the city of Vernon? We have 5 council members, boys? No, girls, that's right. We have 5 council members who are elected by the people that live in the city. The council then appoints the city administrator who manages all the department directors. The council also appoints the city attorney. And the city attorney is the one who manages all the legal affairs within the city. All of the department directors manage the staff in their own departments, and those support staff are actually the ones that do all the hard work. So we just manage them. We're all here, all of us, from the highest city council member down to the guy fixing the potholes. We're all here to serve the public and ensure that it's a quality place to live. And as we mentioned, 55,000 people come here to work during the day. So we want Vernon to be a good place to live and work. This slide shows the organizational chart for the city of Vernon. The elected officials are up on top. Those are the council members. As mentioned, the council appoints both the city administrator and the city attorney. Under the city administrator are all of the departments that the city administrator has to manage. It includes police, health, public works, the utility, finance, the city clerk, and the human resources department. We also have fire services, but those are contracted through Los Angeles County. We just transitioned to an LA County fire service. Each of the departments are going to provide you with a little bit of information on what they do. And first up, we have our human resources director to discuss career opportunities in local government.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. So yeah, I would like to talk a little bit about, and this is kind of a really broad overview of careers in the public sector, particularly in the city of Vernon. If you're looking for a career in your future, we certainly want you to consider public service and the public sector as an option in addition to the private sector employers. While the public sector provides service to the public, the private sector is more focused on the individual organization and those stakeholders and the profits that like Lisa had been saying. Working for the public can certainly be a challenge, but it's also extremely rewarding. Public employees are commonly referred to as public servants, and they serve the community in which they work. Services provided by the public sector are generally those that are needed, used, and available to everyone and provide an overall public benefit. These services are available to everyone and are generally funded through tax dollars, including sales tax, property tax, payroll tax, income tax, those kinds of things. Governments can charge fees for certain services that you might benefit from individually, but those fees can only cover the cost. Again, government can't make a profit from the services they provide. We can only, for those specialized services, recover the costs that it takes to provide them. So next I want to talk a little bit more about the wide variety generally about careers in the public sector and the public service, and give you some examples of jobs in the city of Vernon and the types of educational paths that you can take to get into these kinds of jobs. Public sector careers typically provide more job stability because their organizations do not have to meet market pressures and are not as subject to changes in the economy. These employees are also often performing services that are consistently needed by the public, which can also further provide job security and stability. Individuals who have a desire to serve their communities may find a career in the public sector particularly rewarding. Public employees play a role in improving the lives of those in the community. So I've separated the jobs into some very general categories and the types of jobs and typical educational paths to careers in the public service that we have here in the city of Vernon. First, I'd like to touch on what I call the administrative, professional, and management jobs in the city. Typically, those require a college degree and majors, including public administration, business, finance, engineering, urban planning, those kinds of degrees. And they include jobs like the city administrator, department directors and managers, civil engineers, project managers, budget analysts, administrative analysts. Those are just a few examples. And oftentimes we get questions, well, how much do these jobs pay? Well, the professional level and management and administrative type jobs typically start around $80,000 a year, go up to $150,000 a year. Some even go as in excess of 200,000 when you get into the really higher levels, and especially in larger organizations. The next area is the skilled trades, specialized technical and maintenance fields. These typically require some sort of specialized training or education in a technical area. Sometimes there's specialized certifications that are required. And those are generally at the college level, often obtained through community college schools or trade schools. And these jobs include things like maintenance of the public infrastructure, like the streets, water systems, electrical systems, facilities maintenance, the buildings around, equipment maintenance. And salaries in these types of jobs usually start around $50,000 to $60,000 a year, and require some minimal experience generally. But some specialized fields in these technical areas can earn $150,000 or more. So it just depends on the particular skill. And then the last area, well, not the second to last area, is the administrative support area. These types of jobs typically require some specialized training, a minimum of a high school education, supplemented typically by courses or training in office operations or computers or something like that. And these jobs include things like administrative assistants, technicians, office support, those kinds of supportive roles. Salaries in these fields can start around $50,000 a year and go up to $80,000 a year, or some even higher. And then the last area I wanted to just briefly touch on, and the police folks will talk about this a little bit more, but our police and fire careers, typically they require some community college level courses and education in their specialized area. However, it's not always required if you start in the field at a trainee or recruit level. Oftentimes agencies will put people through those training to get them in police and fire. But certainly as you move up through the ranks, more education is going to be required if you want to promote to be the police chief. For example, you'll need more education and advanced degrees. A starting police officer here in the city of Vernon can earn up around $80,000 a year. Like Lisa mentioned, we don't have fire anymore. We contract with the county, but that's another public safety career path. But beyond what we have here in the city of Vernon, some other public sector careers include those in education, like teachers and administrators, working in correctional facilities, air traffic control, the military, there are public sector careers in the sciences, working in public health, for example, public sector legal careers, transportation, recreation, any kind of agency like a city, county, special district, the state or federal government. Those agencies have a wide variety of careers beyond just what we have here at the city of Vernon. It used to be that the public sector careers paid less than their counterparts in the private sector, but often provided better benefits. That's changed over time. I think some of the salaries in public sector have caught up to the private sector. But one of the benefits of having a public sector career is not only just you're serving the public, which a lot of us have taken or chosen these careers so that we can be in public service and have that make that difference in a community. But like I mentioned earlier, they also provide a more stable career that isn't subject as much to market fluctuations in the economy and those kinds of things that provide a more stable career. If you want to find out about open jobs in the public sector, there's sources like Government Jobs website. There's a publication called Jobs Available that still is used. There are a lot of professional associations, depending on the career or the field that you're talking about. Like there's a municipal management assistance group, there's municipal clerk associations, public works associations, all sorts of different professional associations. The city posts jobs that we have available on the HR webpage. We always advertise in Government Jobs. And then we also use an interest card system. You can go on to our website and look at all of our different jobs. And if you're interested in a particular job, you get notified when we're actively recruiting for that position. So how am I doing time? Okay. The next area we're going to go into is each of the departments is going to give you an overview about their operations and what they do and what their functions are. And the first one we're going to start with is the HR department. While I'm up here, right? So, like I was introduced, my name is Michael. I'm the Director of Human Resources. Also here, I have our HR analyst, Karina Rueda, and our Senior HR Analyst, Lizette Griselli, both work in my office. These are the guys that do all the work. The HR department supports the functions of the other city departments by providing guidance on policies and procedures that affect the operations of the city organizations. We have what is known as a civil service system, which means that individuals are hired, retained, and promoted based on objective job-related qualifications. And the HR function really starts with the recruitment process when we're hiring for city jobs. For every city job, you're going to start with submitting an application and often a resume to determine if you meet the minimum qualifications for the job. And then you'll go through some sort of testing and or interview process before being considered for hire by the department where the vacant city job is. The department has the final decision about who gets hired in their department. Okay. We're also responsible for making sure that once you're hired, you have a professional and supported work environment. We're responsible for all the employee benefits, the employee engagement events, training and professional development, and working with various labor unions to ensure we have a positive employee relationship. People in HR typically have a college degree in public administration, business, or HR management. And then we have up here some of the positions that are typically found in a public sector HR department. There's a director, analysts, we have HR assistant. We have only 5 people in our office. But that kind of gives you an overview of what we do in the HR department. Next up, we have Lisa again, who's going to talk about the city clerk department.
Who wants to be a city clerk when they grow up? Yeah, me neither. I already told you you can't. I did not plan to be here, but 26 years ago, I was coaching gymnastics and I had graduated from USC with my degree in kinesiology. I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon. And one of my gymnast dad was the city manager in a city. And he said, do you want to come work for me? And I said, well, I've never worn shoes to work, but I'll try. He's like, well, you went to USC, you're smart, whatever, come on. So 26 years ago, I started in this profession. I didn't know what a city clerk was. I hardly knew what local government did. Had no idea what some of the lingo was, but here I am 26 years later. So don't put it off. Michael, it's too late for you. But for all of you, it's a great profession. Let me tell you a little bit about what my department does. Does anybody know what the city clerk does? No, yeah, me neither. We support and serve not only the public, we serve internal departments, the city council, commissions that the city has, all while providing transparent governance. Transparency is a big word these days. Thank you. These days, as the government code that I mentioned earlier says, I am the official record keeper for the city. So I have to maintain all of the city records. And a record is anything in writing that relates to the conduct of the public's business. So an email, a note, a post-it note, anything that we put in writing, I have to maintain and be able to provide to people if citizens want to see them. The California Public Records Act is the way that citizens are allowed to monitor what we're doing and to have access to the affairs of the government. Most of our records are still in paper, but we do have a lot that we've scanned and we have electronically. We store it in our document imaging system. The ultimate goal before I retire in several years is to have all of our records that are publicly accessible available on the city's website. Everyone wants to go to Google and get instant gratification, have your package delivered tomorrow, right? Nobody wants to come into City Hall to my counter and say, can I see this document? So hopefully before I go, we'll have all of our records on the city's website. You can go on in the middle of the night and find whatever it is that you're looking for. Another function of the city clerk department is that I am the elections official. Vernon has elections every April, which is somewhat unusual. Most cities have them every other year, but every April, one seat on the city council is up for election. Me as the elections official in my department, we're responsible for conducting the entire election process, from printing ballots to mailing them out, to setting up polling locations if we have those, to counting the ballots. Just last week, we had our 3rd election of the year, which is a little unusual, but as you know, the governor was up for recall last Tuesday, hopefully We had a couple council members up for recall here, which didn't succeed, so that was good. So we had 3 elections this year. It's a lot more than usual, but we'll be certifying those results on October 5th. So if you want to, well, you might be in school. Parents, if you want to join the Zoom meeting at 9 o'clock Tuesday morning, you can see us certify the election results. City Clerk Department provides support for the public meetings. The City Council meets the 1st and 3rd Tuesday of each month. We also have 5 commissions, which are bodies made up for different purposes to assist the City Council in its decisions and to assist the city in its decisions. We have a Housing Commission, we have a Business and Industry Commission, we have a Board of Library Trustees. So those are other bodies. The City Clerk Department has to prepare agendas for those meetings. We have to follow up with minutes so people know what happened. If they take any actions, if they approve agreements or adopt resolutions or ordinances, which are laws of the city, I'm responsible for maintaining those, making sure they get executed and stored and sent to the right people. City Clerk's Department are often known as the hub of local government. People kind of go there first if they don't know who to ask, and we funnel them in the right direction. A lot of different papers are filed with my office. If you trip walking down the stairs after you leave here tonight and you hurt your knee, you might file a claim against the city. Sorry, Zaina. Those get filed in my office and then they go to various places after that. If you want to be on one of the commissions that I mentioned, you come to my department to submit your application. Education paths for city clerk. Well, like I said, my degree is in kinesiology. So, but that was 26 years ago. I think it's, you probably need a degree in public administration or business administration these days if you want to be a city clerk or political science. There are specialized certifications you can get. There's an International Institute of Municipal Clerks that has training and will help people get the basic knowledge they need to become a city clerk. The California City Clerks Association is the California Association. We put on a training called Nuts and Bolts, which some of the staff people here attended when I was a trainer there. Some city clerks are elected and they have no background in political science or anything related to government. They just get enough votes to be the city clerk. Usually in those cities, they have an assistant city clerk or a deputy city clerk who really does all the work. And the elected city clerk is just ceremonial. Careers in my department include city clerk, assistant, deputy city clerk. We have records managers because we have to keep all those records and know how to use them and find them. And then of course, administrative and clerical support, the ones that do all the work. Any questions about city clerk department? Y'all want to be city clerks now? Yeah, I got one. Thank you. Next up is Abraham.
Well, you waited this long. And here's the good news. Vernon Public Utilities is not just one entity. It's not one department. It's actually 4 utilities. It is electric, gas, water, and internet services, all in one department, but different organizations. These 4 organizations have all kinds of jobs you'll be looking for in the future. So if you remember, at all anything from this presentation, just remember VPU is going to be your future employer. Just vote for VPU. So why I'm saying that is we have very we're like the leading age of technology in terms of what we do here, especially fiber optics. We're using the latest technology. When it comes to electric, we're looking at the newest power generation technologies. You've heard about renewable power, things like that. All of that's done in our department. We do produce power. We have our own water system, which is about think it's about the size of Downey in terms of the water production we have here, but the reason is the speakers ahead of me talked about what kind of people strive here, what kind of businesses. We have heavy industry, the consumption is heavy. We have water, we have gas, we have electricity. So all of that, basically, I can just sum it up, what VPU is all about. VPU is all about providing reliable, cost-effective services to our consumers. We want our electric users to have the lowest rates. We make it happen. The gas users, the lowest rates and reliable service. We make it happen. Fiber optics. I know you guys mentioned you don't live in Downey, but I mean, you don't live here in Vernon, but in Vernon, we implemented residential customer internet service program. This was when students were actually taking remote classes during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we're there, to give, to be the response, to the answer, for the kids. They were able to attend online classes, communicate with the friends. So all of that was made possible because of the internet services. So at the end of the day, I want you to remember, we will have jobs for each one of you, no matter what. You know why? Because we have planning people. Who are the planners? The planners are the people, the engineers. The planners are the people who go out and buy power. The planners are the people who go out and secure the gas we need, the water we need. So all of that has all kinds of certification, educational background. It could be engineering, it could be finance, it could be business of the various sorts. So we have the planners for the gas, electric, gas, and fiber optics. We have the procurement sector, group. Who are the procurement people? These are the people who actually make contracts. Most of the power we use here, it's actually from outside the city. We contract for those resources. For power plants, for gas purchases. Those are the resource planners. We have the system planners. The system planners are the people who actually design the gas system, the electric system that we use to deliver to the homes. That's how, because of our planners, that's how electricity comes to your home. Those people design the services. The gas that comes to your kitchen is designed by our service planners. So we do have people doing all of that. Construction. If you're interested in construction, all of those lines I mentioned, the power lines, the gas lines, the water lines, the fiber, the internet lines, somebody has to make them. Somebody has to construct them. We have the line of work. We have the people who is doing it. If you're one of them, if you are one of the people who actually, I started out as an engineer, and my first, attempt to doing things, making things was putting together, I don't know if you guys, they call, diodes and, using a circuit board, putting together components to make a tiny computer. I like to make things with my hand. VPU in general is about people who like to make things happen. We have jobs for you if you are that kind of person. We have the operation and maintenance line of work. These are the people who are making sure our electric lines, our gas line, water line stays healthy. If something happens, they go out and repair it. Or it is the people who read the meters, after pretty much once a month, that the billing cycle for us. We do have a customer service group. the customer service group basically pays attention to billing, the main function, but they are actually more focused on, answering customer questions, making sure, what our customers need and bringing that to our attention. So we can have new programs, to satisfy what the customers need. And we do have compliance, people. These compliance people basically make sure every group I mentioned, all of those groups are complying with the rules and regulations set out. Lisa mentioned about, the state code, it's, the state code we need to follow. When the compliance group makes sure, we follow those rules. We have administrative personnel that, make sure, all of the paperwork and everything, flows, properly. So what, I want to leave you with, we have jobs of all sorts for you, whatever your career path, might be, VP will be, just, consider VP as a future employer. The educational background is going to be, as you see, it could be high school, diploma, it could be, 2-year career, college, diploma, a 4-year degree, all of that is welcomed in VPU. Before I leave my presentation, I like Joanna to come to the podium. She is one of our engineers. I want her to share her personal experience, what's like in working for Vernon Public Utilities. Joanna.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joanna Moreno, and I am a civil engineer with the Water Division for Public Utilities here. And I got my Bachelor's of Science degree in Civil Engineering from California Polytechnic University in Pomona. And I actually first got interested in the public sector because it allows you to make a real impact on the community. And what I mean by that is, for example, in my field as a water civil engineer, we're in charge of making sure that the water that goes to your homes and your businesses is potable, making sure we have the facilities that are pumping out the water, or whether we're getting it out of the ground or we're importing it, it's getting to where it needs to go, and that the water is of good quality. So one of the things that I do is make sure that the water meets all codes, all laws, all regulations, to make sure that what everyone in the city of Vernon is drinking is potable and is clean. Besides that, we also do stuff like Abraham mentioned, we work with developers, businesses. We give them water supplies, whether it's for manufacturing, where they're going to need a larger water line to produce whatever it is they're making. We facilitate that. We go in, we review their utility plans, and we help get that construction done. That way they can move in and run their business as they want to run it. Another thing that we do is pretty much just make sure all the facilities are, we either construct new facilities, we rehabilitate facilities, we maintain them, we operate them, we make sure that everything's in running order. For example, we do project management, construction management. That's one of the funner things that we do, actually. Right now, we're actually constructing a potable water well, and it's 1,600 feet deep, and it's actually going to be it's planned to be our largest source of water for the businesses and residents in Vernon. So, and I also love working in Vernon and in the city, because you get exposed to not just stuff in your field, but you also get exposed to stuff. For example, I get involved in the budget for the water. I get involved in when they're doing rates. I have to know about, policy or legislation sometimes, or what have you. So you kind of get a feel of a lot of different stuff working for the city. And that's one of the things I really like about working here. You get to learn a lot more, which goes a long way. So just to sum it up, I think, especially if you love math and science, me being an engineer, I encourage you to pursue a job in engineering. It's very rewarding, especially being in the public sector. You get to make a real positive impact on the community, and that makes for a really rewarding career. That's it for me.
So I'm vaccinated, so maybe I can take my face mask off. Thank you for coming. And I know some people are dozing off. I used to be like that, sitting there and then falling asleep. So I want to thank you for coming. How many of you are parents and how many of you are in high school? High school, I want to see high school first. And I want to see parents. So I'm assuming the parents are supporting. Okay, so this is great that you're here, you know, and I'm hope you kind of learning what we're all talking about. This is the stuff that I didn't learn in college until I graduated, and I want my money back because they didn't tell me the whole story, you know, what to do with your degree. And you're gonna hear from PD, Fire is not here, but throughout your school career, how many times you saw any other profession comes in other than police or fire, or they ask you what you want to do when you grow up? What do you say? I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, teacher, police, right? Exactly. Nobody said they want to be in charge of the electric, right? Nobody said they want to be city clerk, right? But those are actually what make everything run, right? So what my advice to you as I get to what we do is as you move up in life, you get to college, you know, just pay attention, right? It's not about being a doctor, being a lawyer, because my parents want me to be a doctor, and my mom still don't know what I do to this day. If people, what's your son do? Oh, they the one that goes around and put like A's in a restaurant. And I always have to tell mom I do more than that, but that's good. At least we'll put A's in a restaurant, right? But that's what we do, save lives. I think so. So we are the health department. One of the beauty of Vernon is, you know, Vernon has its own health department. Most cities don't have that. In California, actually, there's only 4 cities that have their own health department. So we're one of them. So what we do, and if you don't mind, Lily, also, can you pass out that handout?
So they're actually in the bag. Some of you already have the bag. They have this insert that is about a career in environmental health and how to become an environmental health specialist. So it's in your bag. If you don't have a bag, we have it outside, and then we have some flyers here as well.
So while Abe was trying to recruit you guys, I just want to show you the path that is out there, right? What you can do and all the things that we touch that nobody even know. You know, I joke about my mom saying, you know, we put A's out there, but does anybody here go to gas stations and get gas for your car? Do you know that tanks and all that pumping your gas get inspected? Does anybody know that? Why do we inspect it? Can anybody tell me why it gets inspected? Great, right? Make sure it's safe. Remember when you drive off with your hose still attached to the car and it pops up and you go, oops, but it doesn't catch on fire, right? Because there's a built-in safety in there, so we want to make sure we check that. But where do we get our water from? I think Joanna said something about well, right? We drill and get water. Well, at the same token, we put big tanks, like 20,000 gallons or 12,000 gallons out there. That's what they bring the gas in so you can pump it, right? What happens if it leaks? It leaks to the soil and it can get to the water that we drink, right? So we have to go and check to make sure it's not leaking, right? When you go to a grocery store and you get your steak, it looks really good, right? And have the use by date on there. How do you know it's safe? That's not your job, right? That's our job. So we go out there to make sure that the food that is going out to you is safe. So the handout I gave you kind of outline all the things that if you get a degree in this field that you can do. My background was biochemistry, and like I said, my parents want me to become a doctor. So that's what I went to college to do. Until I realized I don't like hospitals and I hate blood, really do. I hate hospitals and blood. So what kind of a doctor would I be when I hate hospitals and blood? So I end up working really actually for big, if you heard about 3M, 3M makes your bandages, you name it, they makes it, Post-it. So with my degree, that's what I work. But I hated working in the lab after a couple of years. I couldn't stand it. So one day I was sitting there while I'm bored to death. I'm like, what can I do with my life? So I look up and it said, you can become environmental health specialist. I'm like, what is that? But anyway, went through the process, and it's the best career move that I think I ever made, because I think every day to this date, we do save lives when we go out there. Right? We make sure that your food is safe, the water you drink is safe, pumping gas is safe, right? When you go where your trash is, when we take the trash, we want to make sure that it's get disposed properly. So all those are careers that you can do and you should explore, right? You should take a look at. And if anything, like I said, I'm glad you guys came today. If you end up going to college or something, go to the career fair or the job fairs that is always available and learn what else is out there. When I went to college, I never bought a pen for 4 years. Why? Because I went to career fairs. There were always free pens. Like the bag we gave you, they might have a pen in there. So I made sure that I go through each one of them and grab one. So if I didn't learn anything, at least I got a free pen and use it. But all jokes aside, this is where you learn other things that's out there other than being a doctor, being a lawyer and stuff like that. So in mine, as right here, we do inspection, like I said, for compliance. We want to make sure that people are compliant and they're not causing any issue. Something that, and Veronica is here, I will have her to kind of run the show. I just signed the papers, I guess. But COVID, right? We're on the COVID right now. I never thought in my career I'll be dealing with vaccines and going out and giving people a shot. But that's what public health does. We are in a pandemic. It's a public health issue. So we have to pivot, able to work with our doctors and nurses to make sure that we are protecting the community. And what a noble thing to do. That I can go home and say, hopefully I even save one life, right? Able to make that vaccine available. So we do that. But what I want to live with really is don't limit yourself. Don't box yourself in. I think some of you here, I'm not mistaken, you're a softball player, you're in sports, right? And it takes teamwork, right? I know the pitcher cannot be the first baseman, whatever, right? But you need each one of them to work together for it to happen. And that's what we do in public health. That's what we do in the city, right? Without finance, I can't do my job. Without city clerk, I can't. Without admin, we can't. So you need to have an open mind, and whatever you do, you just need to have a passion for it. And the rest is following. I think there was a slide that said we are public servants. That's a powerful thing, right? We serve the public. We do the things that you don't have to worry about. You don't have to worry about the food that you're buying. Is it safe? When you go to a drive-through and you order your food, by the time you get to the window to pay for it, you want the food to be ready, right? Is that fast? But because of all this system put in, you're able to do that, right? And those things that we want to make sure that when you get the food, it's safe. So I will leave you with that, and hopefully in a question and answer session, we can answer any questions that you may have. With that, I think I want to introduce Veronica. My face, man.
Thank you, Freddie. Hi, my name is Veronica. I'm the Deputy Director of the Health Department. And most of what our department does was covered by Freddie. So what I want to share with you is I see a lot of young ladies in the audience. I was one of you not too long ago. I'm not too long ago. But I think generally when you're young and you're going through school, you struggle with what am I going to do, right? People always say, so what are you going to become? What are you going to do? And it's hard. It's hard to decide what you're going to become when you're still growing up and you're trying to find yourself. And like Freddie said, I had no idea about this profession at all. I was going to school. I was going to major in biology. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm not going to medical school. I'm not going to pharmacy school. What am I going to do with a bio degree other than work in a lab? And I was already working at a bank part-time, and I was looking at career options and how much I was going to make. I'm like, well, I'm making that right now at the bank. So why am I going to school? Why am I getting a degree? And it just so happened somebody who was so gracious enough that was working in a public sector said, hey, would you consider becoming an environmental health specialist? I'm like, what is that? They're like, the people that do the grading, because that's all we're known for, but there's so much more, as you can see. And so somebody turned me on to the profession, and Freddie said it was like a life-changing kind of point in my life. And what I want to tell you guys is it's not always the obvious careers that may become where you end up. So talk to people, if you're interested in a particular career path, if you're able to go in and volunteer for a company, if you're able to do internships, and you find the person or the department that kind of resonates with you, and look and talk to those people that are in the position to help you through the process. Because we've already been through the process. Why do you need to struggle through it? Find the people to help you get through it. So just as a very brief note on our profession, you have to become a registered environmental health specialist, means you have to take a state exam. And one of the fundamental things you need, and you'll get additional details, is that you have to have a degree in order to be able to apply to sit for the exam. So those are nuances that I didn't know when I was going to school. And had I known, I wouldn't have to take an additional year of science classes in order to have sat in for the exam. So it's very important for you guys early on in your educational career to kind of at least have a general idea of which fields you're going into, so that you're taking the appropriate classes, and that so you don't have to take additional ones like I did. I took an extra year of college because I had to take extra classes in order to sit for the exam. So public health, when I started in 2005, I was looking at the pictures. I started with LA County. All of the pictures were males. All of the directors, everything was male, male, male. And now if you look, the county board of supervisors is all female. Do they even have a male left? No. Yeah. Mark Ridley Thomas was the last one. So, females in the public sector are becoming a very, very dominant force. I highly recommend that you guys look. Public health sector has so many different career options, especially for women who are, looking to have meaningful careers in the public sector, as well as having sometimes even political aspirations. You can work for the county and become a county board of supervisors. So like I said, take your time, but don't take too long, because what happens is life goes by really quickly. And the quicker you find yourself and the quicker you find where you want to be, the quicker you get there. So hopefully if we can answer questions at the end to help guide you guys in a certain direction, we're more than happy to do so. But the field is open. There's a lot of careers outside of just environmental health. Public health has a lot of other careers that includes finance, accounting, and everything that you're still going to be part of the public sector. Okay, thank you so much.
So I'm here to talk for the guys. I represent the guys, but when you have 3 daughters, you understand the other side of the world. Welcome to the city of Vernon. Just want to share some notes with you guys. First, I want to give you an overview about Vernon, then I'm going to talk about my path, what my typical day looks like. Then I'm going to turn over to one of our amazing engineers, Lisette. Raise your hand, Lisette. And then we'll go from there. Okay. I am very proud of where I work. One of the things that makes me so proud is the amazing professional females that I work with. From our city clerk, who was a kinesiology, ended up being a city clerk. How does that work? To our city attorney, and so on and so forth. Our amazing engineers that are female. We have a female that's an electrical engineer that works in Abe's department. Civil engineers. We have 2 civil engineers in public works. We have 1 civil engineer also in VPU. And it's just amazing because when I first started working in the city of Vernon in 1983, we didn't have too many females around. So I've seen the dramatic change. And I think that is a positive change. That balance is a positive balance. I am Manuel Garcia. I'm the Deputy Director of Public Works, and I'm going to give you an overview of my presentation. I did that already, kind of Vernon, my path, my typical day. Vernon, let's talk about the past of Vernon. If you look at the geographic location of Vernon in the back, first thing you see is it's right next to the Olive River. So when back in the 1905, you have a river. What are you going to have next to the river? Farmland. And that's what Vernon was. Vernon used to have significant issues with flooding. But thanks to the Public Works Department, we don't have issues with flooding anymore. And the riverbed, et cetera, et cetera. Then somebody had a vision that Vernon was going to be an industrial city. And in the middle of the farm, they built this power plant, the Vernon power plant, the Vernon diesel power plant. It was the largest power plant in the world at that time. There was one just as big, I think, in China. And somebody thought that that person was crazy, that they had the vision to put a power plant in the farm field. And then little by little, Vernon changed from a farmland to an industrial city. And Vernon has a rich history. So from like 1930 to like in the early 1980s, Vernon was heavy industry, Bethlehem Steel, Norris Industries, Alcoa. Then there was a shift because of AQMD and air regulations. Vernon shifted to a commercial city. So now Vernon has a mix of some light industry, commercial interest, some restaurants with some A's on them. But what's going to be the future of Vernon? So I understand the past of Vernon. I know what the present is, and I'm very fortunate to be working in the future of Vernon, where Vernon is going to be 30 years from now. And that's our planning department, and we're working on some of those things. For example, most likely in 15 years, you will not own a car. None of you will own a car. You will have this thing called TAS, Transportation as a Service. So how do the public servants facilitate that? Interesting question. So let's talk about my path. Little did I know that when I was a 6th grader at Nimitz Junior High, and I was taking a photography class, that the things that I learned when I was a 6th grader, 7th grader, when I was a 7th grader, I would be using today about negative and positive space when I create images. Little did I know. Little did I know that when I was a junior at Bell High School and I took a horticulture class, that I will be providing guidance to our street department on how to beautify our street islands, because I know about soil composition and the different types of plants. Little did I know. Little did Lisa know that through kinesiology, you can become a city clerk. But what the USC degree does, and what any degree does, is it teaches that you can learn, and you can learn about things, and you can research. So whereas she didn't know what she was going to do, right, or where she was going to end up, she knew that education was the key, and that is indeed the key. Or training, or learning in general, okay? So out of high school, I wanted to play professional basketball. But dad said, you're kidding me, you're 6 foot tall. You're gonna be an engineer. So my dad made me go to engineering, Cal Poly Pomona. Who went to Cal Poly Pomona? Hey. And he said, pick one. The first one was aerospace engineering. So I picked aerospace engineering. And the first attack angle class that I took, I said, I am not taking this class. But I took every other class I could think of. I took classes in physics, calculus, right, fluid dynamics. I learned a lot of different things. And after 2 years, I couldn't tolerate anymore. I stopped going to Cal Poly Pomona. I could not do that anymore. And I was working for the city of Vernon at the time. I was a utility man. Okay, hard worker. I learned quickly. So then I became an engineer into the street department. And I was working for the traffic engineer doing traffic counts. Talk about a boring job. sit in an intersection, counting cars, turning left, turning right, going forward. Is that a job? Now we do that with cell phone technology. So our cell phones tells you if you're turning right or going straight. So when we analyze traffic flow, we don't have somebody there. We just talk to your carrier and we find out where you've been. Various positions in the utilities department, power scheduler. I was at one point the assistant director of light and power. I was also the assistant director of finance for the city of Vernon. One of the nicest projects that I had to work with was actually the construction of Marlboro generating station. But I had setbacks in my career with the city of Vernon. The first time was I wanted a job. I could do the job. Everybody knew I could do the job. But at the point it was like, sorry, Manny, you don't have a bachelor's degree. Well, the last time I heard that song, when I earned a bachelor's degree. And then things happen and there was another opportunity. Manny, you could do the job, but sorry, Manny, this job requires a master's degree. And I got my master's degree from the University of Redlands. Oh. Octomali, baby. He's from the University of Redlands. And that opens up some opportunities. But what a great, the best thing I've ever done in my life, you know, personally, just for self-gratification, is earning that master's degree. But it is a lonely journey. It's just you and yourself. And can you set a goal and get after it and get it done? And your friends are calling you, hey, let's go to the Laker game, let's go to the Dodger game. And you have to say, no, I can't, because I have to study. While you have a family, well, you're still coaching your kids in sports. So you learn how to flip multiple things and set a goal and work for a long time towards that goal. So learning and education, right? Photo, pictures, horticulture, right? Aerospace engineering. The reason I was successful in the utilities department, not because I had background, I was an electrical engineer, but I had background in engineers and the fundamentals of physics and electrical theory. And even though I wasn't an electrical engineer, I had a background, I had knowledge. And I was able to apply what I've learned in school, what you learn, to a different field, the process of learning. Okay. So what does my typical day in the city of Vernon consist of? Right? Joanna pointed out that you get involved with a lot of different things. So you become involved with a lot of different things. I could be working on something that's in the future, 10, 15, 20 years in the future. I could be working, I could be handing a certificate of occupancy to a small business in the city of Vernon. You know how exciting that is? That means that they have met all the requirements and they can open their door and conduct business, right? They have met the electrical requirements for safety, the health department for safety, fire department safety, all safety. They met everything and now they can do their business. You know how happy they are when they receive the certificate of occupancy? Because if it's a small company, if it's a privately owned company, they're risking a lot. There is no guarantee that you can be successful. Okay. So what we do as a team from the city of Vernon is we try to provide that business a competitive advantage in the city of Vernon. How do we do that? We're one of the few cities, only 4 in the state of California, that has a health department. We're the only city in the state of California that has water, gas, electric, and fiber optic service. Because we mean business and we're committed to customer competitiveness. My name is up there. Abe's name is up there. Okay? And that is what public servants do. Public servants provide the framework for the private sector to succeed, for our communities to thrive. It is quite a rewarding experience. Okay? So do any of you guys have any questions? Short, brief? No, I'm gonna turn it over to our amazing civil engineer, Lisette Melendez. Lisette?
Hi, I'm amazing, apparently. I'll just start with, my name is Lisette Melendez. I am a project engineer for the Public Works Department, and I'll start a little bit with my path. I came to this country when I was 12. I didn't know any English, so I was good at math. So that's how I knew what my strength was. And when I went to school, I didn't know what to be. I just knew I wanted to be in sciences. And at first I wanted to be an architect like Joanna. But when I saw the lists, I saw engineer sounds a lot cooler. And it did, it still does. I got my engineering degree from USC. I didn't know we had so many Trojans, actually, I just learned. But it's good to know to be among family, because that's what we are. And
In 2002, that was a long time ago. But I got my engineering degree, and this was my first job out of college. And that's almost 20 years ago, and I'm still here. And I don't know if that means I love it that much, or let's go with that. But I love my job, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of what my job entails. So in the Public Works Department, Engineering Division, we have currently we have an associate engineer, a project engineer, myself, and an engineering aide. And we also have some administrative help, but we are in charge of maintenance and rehabilitation of all the city infrastructure dealing with sewer, storm drain, street projects, all the capital improvement projects, all the traffic signals. So if anything is wrong out there with the traffic signal, I'm the person they call to fix it. We also do our own design. We manage and inspect our own projects. So yes, it's a lot of work. We review all of the site development projects that go on in the city. We review and make sure that everything is per code, per standard. Anything that's done in the public right of way, from something small that's going to be constructed to any new sewer line or anything like that, has to go through our department, and we have to review your plans. We also have various consultants that help us get these jobs accomplished. So we manage those consultants to make sure they're doing the job. We also review any land entitlements that we have to process. Those include lot mergers, when a property wants to merge their lots into one big lot, or they want to separate the lots. We do that. We review those. Those are usually put together by surveyors who are licensed surveyors. They send us the documents and we process them from beginning to end. We also maintain a lot of our as-built records. As-built records is just the final drawing of any street project that went out. Those have to be kept, and anybody in the public who wants to see those plans, they go through Lisa, and we give her those plans, and she provides them to whoever needs to see them. We also interact with the public. Any requests that they need for, if they want some red curb installed in front of their business, they call us too. So we handle that. We go and investigate. We see if it's possible, who's going to be affected, how many parking spaces you're losing, all the signs that are out there, we have to verify they're per code. And any street related issues, pretty much, they go through our division. We also have in the Public Works Department, we have other divisions, which include the planning division, the building division, which has all the inspectors for all the private property developments. So we do not necessarily inspect construction in the private, but anything in the public right away, which is in the streets. We do that. I think I just wanted to make sure and emphasize how important it is for women to go into the sciences, because like I said, when I first started going to school more than 20 years ago, I was almost the only woman in the class, a lot in my classes. But I think that if you like it and that's what you enjoy, at the end of the day, you have to do what makes you happy, because you hopefully you're going to be doing this for a long time. And I enjoy what I do. And I think that if you have any questions on what my job is. Great. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica, and I'm the Financial Service Administrator for the Finance Department here at the City of Vernon. And like many of my colleagues here, I did not know that I was going to end up in finance. I was actually a psychology major at Cal State Long Beach. And I was working at a dealership. I was a cashier. And all of a sudden, I realized that I had a knack for numbers. Like, I loved it. I like to look into it, look at the ledger, see what we're off, what we're missing. And so I decided to go into accounting. And throughout my career, I had a lot of different, like I said, started as a cashier. I did contracts clerk. I became a bookkeeper, an accountant once I got my degree. And then I was an accounting manager. And then I was lucky enough to come here at City of Vernon as the financial service administrator. So I worked in the private sector for a very long time. And when I decided to make that leap and come into the public sector, it was very rewarding because everything you do basically affects a community, a citizen, commercial businesses everywhere. And being able to be part of events like this that can actually create an impact is very rewarding for myself. So a little bit about the finance department. So there's three major roles within finance. There's accounting operations, reporting, and auditing. So by these ways, we're able to effectively manage the city's finances, support city services, and ensure that generally accepted standards are followed and appropriate internal controls are in place to safeguard availability for vital services to the community. So we achieve this by working with all the departments during our annual budget. We create the budget, we keep track of the budget, and ensure that we are fiscally responsible in creating a structurally balanced budget. We also anticipate financial challenges. With COVID happening, we had a world of, we were unsure of what's going to happen. So sometimes we need to step back, we need to reevaluate everything and work with all the departments to make it happen and ensure that, we come out stronger on the end. So furthermore, we determine how to manage these shortfalls, and we also fund our surpluses. By managing the city investments, we ensure that there's a long-term stability and protect the city's assets. So there's many ways of coming into finance, but definitely if you get a degree in accounting or in business administration, public administration, economics, business analytics, it could give you a strong foundation and knowledge to pursue a career in finance. So there's many careers listed up there. Like I said, I started as a cashier. So just getting that foundation is vital for you to start and then getting that knowledge and then moving up into your career. So in conclusion, I really hope that you can look into these career paths and, look into it, do your research, like everyone was saying, go to college fairs, career fairs, and take interest in what you want to do with your life. If you guys have any questions, if not, we'll have it for, yes, go ahead. So for me, like I said, when you create a budget, right, you're looking at everything that you do for a city, how it functions. Like when you're working in the private sector, you're just looking just at that industry, or you're only the impact for that company. But when you work in the public, it's like every citizen that works here, that every person that comes in and works here, every business, you're affecting every single aspect of somebody's life. Thank you, guys.
All right, let's get this out of the way first. I know what you're thinking. He's really tall. He must play basketball, right? So no, I don't play basketball, but I do the job I love doing. It's kind of funny. Freddie just reminded me, I was a pre-med major when I started in college, and I didn't deliver a baby, but I did on duty, which was really weird. So I still got to play a policeman at play a doctor at some point. So, and it's been very rewarding. So my name is Robert Sosa. I'm the police chief of the city of Vernon. I've been the chief now for close to 2 months. I started my career with the city about 25 years ago. And before I get too far, I want to bring up my other basketball player, Detective Velez. If you can stand up here with me. The mission of the Vernon Police Department and all police departments really is to create a safe environment where our communities can thrive, right? And here in Vernon, we really work hard to try to be the best law enforcement agency in Los Angeles County. And I set a really big bar or high bar for our agency. But we do that with a belief in a philosophy that I call the COP philosophy. That's a play on words. It stands for community engagement, operational efficiency, professionalism, and pride in everything we do. You know, when you look and you think about an educational path and how to get into law enforcement, you know, you need a high school degree, but more and more nowadays, you really need a college degree. I can't remember the last time we hired somebody that only had a high school degree. We're very fortunate. I think the majority of the folks we hire now all have bachelor's degrees. You know, I have a young lady at home, she's 13 years old and she wants to follow in her dad's path. And we have a deal in place. I know her mom doesn't want her to be in law enforcement, but her dad does, right? So, but I tell her, you got to go get your education first, and then I'll agree to let you go to the police academy, right? So, but I'm going to stop talking. I know we'll have some time to answer questions at the end, but I'm going to turn it over to one of our superstars, and she really is, and she doesn't hear that enough. But Velez is a detective with our department, and she's done phenomenal work for us. And believe it or not, she's even worked undercover. And she is not a basketball player. All right. So Detective Velez.
I'm actually a little shorter than him, so I had to bring the mic down. I'm Detective Marissa Velez. I've been with the Vernon Police Department for almost 5 years now. I actually started my career in law enforcement 10 years ago. And it's funny that the chief brings up that his 13-year-old daughter wants to go into law enforcement, because I was 7 years old when I told my dad I was going to be a cop. Now, God bless my dad for having the patience. He retired last year with 29 years on in law enforcement. So it's definitely a unique career path, I'll tell you that. I do hold a bachelor's degree in criminology from the University of Laverne, but it took me a long way to get there. I always knew I wanted to be a cop, but I kind of took all the pathways. I studied crime scene investigation initially, which was fun until I sat in on a few autopsies and I was like, no, you know what? I'm out of here. I'd rather be doing something with a gun and a badge on my waist. I'm just going to be very honest with you guys. Plus, it looks really cool. So, you know, one of the things that really drew me to law enforcement was not only was it something that served and, you know, protected, which everyone says that, and we know that. We know when you call 911, you know who's going to show up. There's no question about it. But to me, it was so noble. And that's what I always looked up to. So in addition to the CSI stuff that was fun, I worked in our records division at another agency. I worked as a traffic investigator as a civilian. I worked as a DUI liaison with the district attorney. So I came to Vernon with a lot of experience and was very fortunate to become a sworn police officer for Vernon. Now, Vernon is unique in the sense that we haven't had a lot of females in the history of Vernon. I'm actually the 5th successful female in the history of Vernon's police department, which began in 1905. So I'm very excited to kind of break barriers and go out and do new things for females in law enforcement. But on top of that, one of the great unique things that Vernon has to offer is this unique city and community. So we oftentimes are responding to businesses. I don't really knock on people's doors when I go out in the field, which I don't go out in the field anymore until after you've already filed your report and it's come to my desk. And now I'm going to go talk to you and figure out what happened. And I'm going to solve it for you, because that's our goal, is to come up with the solution. So in Vernon, our officers are going out to those businesses and talking to you, you know, when you go to work and something happens, talking to the business owners, working directly with our city admin and, you know, with all of our city departments. We work with all of them consistently, and it's a great family atmosphere. But along with the patrol officer side, which you guys know, those are the ones that drive the black and white cars with the sirens and the lights. It's always like so in your face when they show up, right? I'm like, turn the lights off, geez. But, you know, those are our saviors that we call and we look for. But in addition to them, you know, then stuff goes sometimes to us, the detectives, and we're the ones that investigate what occurred and try to really come up with a resolution for you. We're the ones that really talk to the victims afterwards. We're the ones that go to court and, you know, we testify on your behalf. We're the ones that find that paperwork that was stolen and, you know, recover those property that you lost. So that's a lot of what we do. There are also some amazing specialized units that Vernon has available. We don't currently have a canine, but we have had canines in the past, which is so cool because that's the dog. And we love when our dogs come and visit us and we get to hang out with them. We've also had motors, which are guys that ride our motorcycles and do our traffic control. We also currently have positions on outside details, which are really cool for us because it gives our officers an outside experience to work with another agency, usually a federal agency. Right now, we currently have an officer on our DEA task force. So he works all drugs. That's Drug Enforcement Administration. He works specifically with the feds, and he works to seize drugs and money for us, which is awesome for him. Talk about undercover. I have been able to do some amazing undercover work in the city, which was a lot of fun. It was nerve-wracking, but fun, and something that I never thought I would be able to do in my career, which has been so rewarding. We also have some great positions for civilian employees. And like I said, I started my civilian career 10 years ago, having worked in crime prevention, technical services, traffic, records, and we have a great civilian staff here. You guys know when you call 911, someone always answers. There's never a question about it. Well, what you don't know is when you call 911, that person answers. That's our dispatcher and our call takers. We have our own dispatch staff, so they answer all the 911 calls that come through the city of Vernon. Now that's if you're on your cell phone, on your work phone, you're calling from your car, you're driving through. If you're in our general area, we're going to answer the phone. Well, there's a whole chain that it goes through. So you call 911, dispatch answers, no question. They have someone else sending the officers to you. Those are the guys in the black and white cars that show up in the uniforms. And I mean, obviously, look at the chief. Our uniforms look so cool. Anybody in a uniform looks cool. So that's really what drew me to the career. I was like, hey, I don't have to worry about what to wear every day. Now I do. But, I love putting a uniform on. Now it's rare, but I love putting a uniform on. So the uniform guys go out, they take the report for you. They give you their card. They make sure you're okay. They're the ones that pull people out of the wrecked cars before a fire gets there sometimes. They're the ones that, catch the burglar inside the building. They're the ones that, guard the intersection when there's a traffic collision, all that stuff. And then those reports come to us and we're the ones that investigate it. And then we pass it off to our supervisors, who are the leaders really for us. So they've been the ones that, guide us in everything that we have going on. And the Vernon Police Department, we have an array of ranks. You can go from an officer to a field training officer, to a detective, to a corporal, to a sergeant, to a lieutenant, captain, and then hopefully one day chief. That's the boss. So there's a lot that we have to offer. But besides all of that, the cool uniforms, the cool cars, the lights and sirens, the guns, the badges, we really are a huge connection to the community. A lot of times we're the first connection to the community. And a lot of people don't realize that law enforcement isn't always the good connection. You call us when something's wrong, essentially. That's why you guys call 911, right? You guys remember I think it's kindergarten. I remember going to teach kindergarten, learning how to dial 911. Do you guys remember that? And having to practice it and remembering why to call 911, right? It's because something went wrong. Something bad happened. So I think in Vernon, we do a really great job of turning that bad into a good relationship, into something that leaves you with a lasting impression of law enforcement. I know right now in this climate, law enforcement, we had it kind of rough, but I wouldn't change my career because of it. And I wouldn't try to shy anyone away from it. But it hasn't been that easy over the past couple of years. That's just the truth. But in reality, we're not going to stop dialing 911, right? So we'll take questions after, but thank you guys for being present. I appreciate your support.
I will try to talk very quickly. I don't want to keep you guys too much longer, but I'm Zaina Musa. I am the interim city attorney. I have worked for Vernon for over 8 years now. I've been a municipal attorney for over 13 years. So what does the city attorney do? It's the city's legal advisor. So every document that needs to be signed by the city and pretty much every program or service offered by the city depends on support or advice or review by the city attorney's office. So most people know what attorneys do from TV or movies. Does anyone here want to be an attorney? Any? On the fence? Okay. I'll try not to scare you away. So, most of the attorneys that you see in media or are on the news are litigators in trial, going to the court, which is a piece of what we do. But really, a city attorney and a city attorney's office is kind of a jack of all trades. So we're essentially a general counsel to the city, and we try to be problem solvers more than anything else. What I enjoy most about the city attorney's office and Vernon in particular is that every day is different. For a lot of legal jobs, you work in just one practice area and you kind of do the same thing over and over again. Here in any given week, you could advise on really complicated contracts or transactions, represent a city employee during a deposition, appear in court on a police records request, draft an ordinance or some other document for city council review, participate in union negotiations, and really basically anything else that touches the city in some sort of legal capacity. Today, for example, I had a full day of meetings and I got to research illegal warehouse parties. So it was, it's always dynamic and it's always changing and it's never boring, which I think is a little bit surprising when you talk about municipal law. If you can't or don't want to make, the full investment into law school, being a paralegal or a legal secretary are also excellent options. Whether it's in the public sector or the private sector, the skills kind of translate both ways. As some of my colleagues have mentioned, I also just wanted to touch a little bit on being a female, being a woman in municipal government and in law in particular. When I graduated from law school in 2009, I was the only female attorney in my firm's LA office. And that has certainly changed over the years. Also, when I first started going to court, I remember it was kind of an unspoken rule that you had to wear a skirt and nylons. Pantsuits were kind of discouraged. So that wasn't that long ago. I mean, we're talking about 2009. So it was challenging, but it was also formative. And I think, as we've said, the great thing is it's changing. I think you can see it in the makeup, especially of city leadership and our workforce. It's becoming very diverse and women are in key leadership roles. And I think it's fantastic. I'm also a working mom. I have 2 small children, and I think working in the public sector versus a law firm affords a work-life balance that is fantastic. So I would also encourage you to look at it from all angles. Definitely reach out, build relationships. We're always here to mentor, and we're always looking for legal interns. We would love to get some local students involved in City Hall. So I know we might not have a ton of time for questions, but I have business cards if anyone wants to reach out after. But thank you so much for coming.
All right, we are wrapping up. Does anybody need to stand up and just stretch your legs? I'm okay. Make yourself comfortable, stretch your legs. And I'll go through city administration really quickly and then wrap it up and open it up to questions. So just really briefly about my background. I was always interested in public service. Like, I don't know, my father was career military. I have social workers and teachers and educators in my family. And so I just was always kind of predisposed to public service. I remember being really young, like 10, 11, 12 years old, thinking, I want to change the world. How do I affect change in my community and make things better for people? And so from very young, that was kind of my direction. I didn't know exactly what that would look like. I thought initially politics. I thought, oh, okay, if I want to make change, I need to run for office and be a congresswoman or a mayor or something. And so I kind of strategically went to school. I studied political science. I'm from California. I'm really from San Diego. So I studied Spanish because I thought, hey, these are my people. I want to be able to communicate with my people, right? So I kind of took a strategic position and said, these are all the things that I think will help me be a good representative for my community. I did politics for a couple of years. I worked as a fundraiser. I worked on campaigns. And the closer I got to the life of an elected official, the more I realized not for me. You know, I don't want to have to ask anyone for money to keep my job and to be able to do the good work of the people. And after like 10 years of like totally stressful living, I took a step back and said, okay, you know, let's readjust. What can I do to still affect change without having to run for office and all of the kind of political stressors that go along with that? And I decided, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll work in the city manager's office. So that was like 25 years ago. I switched careers. I'm getting out of politics. I'm going to work in city government. I took a job with a utility, the city of Pasadena, thinking, oh, I'm just going to get my feet wet and get into local government. And then I'm going to go into the city manager's office. Well, I love the utility. I spent 20 years there. And now I've been at the city of Vernon for almost 4 years. And look what happened. Like, I made my way back to a city manager's office. Like, my point is just that, you know, figure out what drives you. What's your passion? Think strategically about the tools and the resources and the information that will be helpful for you to get there. And find a way to connect that with what you're naturally good at, right? And then just, you know, keep your mind open and go to school and get internships. My first job with the city of Pasadena was actually an internship. And that internship turned into a job that turned into another job that turned into another job. And I had almost 20 years with that city. So so that's my advice. That's kind of my story. Figure out what you're good at naturally, and find a way to connect that with what your interests are. And then just keep your mind open, because it's hard when you're young to figure out, oh, what you want to do with your life. Who thinks right now that they know what they want to do for a career? Anybody? Yeah, so. Well, hold on to it, be smart about it. But if it's not working, don't be afraid to change tack and adapt. So that's my 2 cents. So just generally about city administration, a primary function of the city administrator's office is to coordinate and manage the city functions, develop and implement strategies to make sure that the departments are working in a coordinated fashion to achieve the goals set by the city council. I mean, in a nutshell, that's it. We provide administrative support to the departments, make sure that the city's actions that we're taking are in compliance with the laws, the local laws, our municipal code, but also laws that govern like a transparency and good governance. So in a nutshell, that's it. Careers that are in the city administrator's office. There is the city administrator. Or in some cities, it's a city manager, but essentially the same thing. Economic development manager. They work with the businesses, work to bring businesses into a city, because businesses, you know, they bring revenues to a city, and those revenues are used to support city services. So paying for roads and libraries and cops and all of those sorts of things. We have administrative assistants, administrative analysts. These are kind of generalist people who are problem solvers and help get things done. We also have a public information officer for you guys who are all into the social media. I don't get it, I'm sorry. You know, I try, but Pinterest, I can do that maybe a little bit. But anyway, our public information officer works with our social media networks. They work with the media when the city is having events. They respond to reporters and media when they want to do a story on the city or want to know what's going on. So those are generally the careers that you find in a city administrator's office. Wrapping up. Okay, so get involved. You know, I guess really that's our underlying message is for you to get involved either through public service or through civic engagement. You know, you need to vote, make your voice heard. Every day, local governments and state governments, for that matter, federal governments, they are making decisions that affect your life, whether you know it or not. So get engaged, figure out what's happening in your local cities, and make sure that you vote, because that's how you exercise your vote, exercise your voice, and give your 2 cents. So we have a really nice quote from Barack Obama. Do I have time to read it? Does anybody have questions? Like, we're curious to know, what do you want to know more about? Everybody is here for you. So don't be afraid to ask your questions. We're here for you. Yeah.
I was gonna say that a lot of you talked about finding something we love and latching onto it and like using that to drive us. I think something that us kids now have trouble with nowadays is being exposed to things like that, to finding new jobs and new different things we can do to, that drive us and want us to do. So I don't know, ways till we can get exposed to more things.
So I can speak to that just a little bit. So one of the things that I've done and that I've encouraged people that work with me is, there are a lot of kind of personality tests and things like that online to find more about yourself. There's one that I've done for myself and that I've recommended that my kids do. It's called Strengths Finder. And it's like an online kind of quiz, and it just asks you questions about, how do you feel about this and what would you do in this situation? And it kind of helps you tease out things that maybe that, it recommends careers, but it also kind of helps you, find out your strengths and what your interests are. So that's one thing that I can recommend. Does anybody else want to speak to that? How people can help find their passion and narrow down the things that they're interested in and make a career out of it?
Well, I was gonna say, don't be afraid to try. Don't. I think most of us, as you can tell, this is not what we decided we're gonna do, right? Because when you're young, there's always this path that somebody has set for you. I try, volunteer. I think Angela said, volunteer, become an intern. Really, cold call people. Whenever I need a job, I call people until they're tired of me, for me calling. Because eventually, if you're being persistent, so pick a path. If it's not working, try something else. Really, that is, don't ever feel like you're a failure because something didn't work out. Just think about it as, hey, I tried that, let me go try something else. It's really, that's what it boils down to. And what you will realize also, and I think most of us have said it, is, you can go to any job, and if you go in there thinking, oh, this job pays this much money, and that's why I'm doing it, you're in the wrong profession, right? Because if you're not happy about it, doesn't matter how much money you're making. So if that is not working, you try something else, and once you get your passion and you like it, the money follows. But if you're doing a great job, people recognize it and you get paid for it. So really, that is what my advice is, just don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to disappoint. I know parents are here. Don't be afraid to disappoint your parents because they wanted something else for you and they mean well. However, you have to like it. You have to want to do it, I know my parents probably still not happy I'm not a doctor, but I probably would have been the worst doctor ever. So it's really, seriously, just do what you like and your parents will come around as long as you're doing what is good.
To build on that a little bit. To build a little on that a little bit, you see some common themes here is that you don't need to know. I don't know what I want to be or what I want to do. I just know that I like what I'm doing. So find out what you're good at, okay, and find out what you like. Ideally, you would find out what you're good at and that you also happen to like it. And try something, because if you try it, it's not in vain. The lessons that you learn are valuable and you can apply to something else. You can be a kinesiologist and become the city clerk. You can try to be a doctor and you can go into health. right? You can go into this and you can be a detective. The key is that you have to be willing to work hard and learn, and that'll pay off. Another thing that I want you to take away, because I know most of these young ladies by first name, and I know, for example, that Vanessa, you are a very good dancer and you have an eye for fashion, right? So one of the schools that I recommended to you was the Academy of Arts in San Francisco. Pursue that if that's your passion. You can go into sports and entertainment management. You can go into show business. There's a lot of things. You can even you can become an attorney that represents artists. There's a lot of things. Follow your passion. But one thing that you're going to find in common here is that these professionals come to work and they have a passion for the gap. And what I mean by the gap is they see how things are and how they envision things should be. And we work very hard to narrow that gap. So find out what your passion is, whether it's mathematics and you want to solve that gap, whether it's art, whether it's business, right? And follow that passion. Do you like to work with people? Do you like to work by yourself? Ask those questions and you're going to find a career path. And I want to personally, I want to thank the city of Vernon for putting this on for the young ladies and young man. These are some amazing professionals, and I'm proud of where I work. And I want for you guys 10 years from now to do what they're doing. Okay, so thank you guys, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, Abe?
Just one point to add. I used it, worked for me. Join clubs, especially when you go to college. Don't be afraid of joining clubs. That's how I got exposed to what I love doing today, to engineering, specifically the area of engineering. That people were invited to come and talk to us as students. Just join any club you find, maybe you'll find your passion by listening to experts from the industry. So that will be one of the avenues you will learn more.
Any questions?
I have a question for Ms. Musa. What did you major in college, and what majors do you think best prepare you for law school?
So I was actually a double major in broadcast journalism and political science. I thought I was going to go into journalism with sort of a political science spin. And like a lot of people up here, I realized I didn't love it through a lot of internships. So that was also kind of, I think, a response to the earlier question about how do you find out what you really love? For me, it was finding out what I didn't love. Working in a newsroom wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I had visions of NPR and CNN and kind of long format, and I was going to like county fairs to cover, farm animals. So I did have the double major. I went to USC where they made it really easy to sort of try things out without getting too far behind credit-wise. Most of the people I went to law school with also majored in poli-sci, some were history, some were English. But in law school, there's no requirement to major in something, to have your degree in something specific, but to get sort of that really intense prep for law school with reading and writing and analysis, I would say poli-sci, history, English, something that requires you to read a lot and to really like focus on the text to prepare.
I have a question for the chief. So how long is the police academy and what do you look for in recruiting?
All right, I'll answer your first question. When I first started, the police academy was only like 4.5 months. It's up to 6 or 7 months now. There's just so much we've got to cover, and we've realized that we have a lot to learn. I refer to, and those of us in leadership roles in law enforcement need to understand that we got to practice law like doctors practice medicine. It's constantly changing, and there's always better ways of doing things. So through that process, we've realized that we've needed to increase different areas of study in our police academies. So our police academies, I remember when I started here, the officer that trained me as an FTO had no academy. He just got hired and was put out into the streets. Can you imagine that? I can't imagine that. I wouldn't sleep at night as the police chief. And now they're just getting longer. And what was your second part of that question?
What do you look for?
What do I look for? That's a great question. Great question. I look someone that has a servant heart. You know, you don't have to, I know I make fun of myself. I'm really good at that. You don't have to be the tallest, the fastest, the strongest. I'm not. But I always had a servant heart. I touched on that. I wanted to go to medical school because I wanted to help people. When I realized I wasn't good at math and that there was more than one chemistry class I had to take, I said, I am out. And I followed my other passion. And it was always my passion was law enforcement. You know, I was listening to my mom, you know, my parents came here in the 70s from Portugal. I speak Portuguese. Anybody else speak Portuguese? No, I didn't think so. Right. And they wanted me to go to, you know, become a doctor and be able to go back to Portugal. They're from an island. To go back to Portugal, they didn't have doctors there when they grew up. So unfortunately, I wasn't good at math. I blame them. They didn't give me the brains. So I got into law enforcement, but I look for a servant heart. And if you have a servant heart, you're going to do really good at this. You know, trustworthiness, credibility, right? And an understanding of empathy, understanding that there's more that unites us than divides us. Putting yourself in other people's shoes, I think is what I look for as a police chief, not necessarily someone that can slam dunk. Right.
A reminder, in addition to the professionals that you all heard from here today, we have the women that you heard from as well, the engineers, professionals in finance, health, and also HR. So if you have any questions for any of them, they can answer them now.
I have a question from the detective we heard from. You mentioned different, sorry. You mentioned different types of police officers, patrol officers, motor officers. Were you immediately a detective or did you work up to that?
No, I actually started as a patrol officer. That's where everyone starts in the field. After you get out of the police academy, you go through in Vernon, it's a 4-month field training program. I did 2.5 years in the field and then went into the detective bureau. And then it was a specialized assignment. So I put in a memo for it, interviewed against several other applicants, and then was able to get assigned to the detective bureau. Happy to take questions from any of the parents as well that are here.
I want to thank everyone for being here and sharing your stories and the information with the young ladies here. I do have a question for those that have gone from the private sector to the public sector. Aside from wanting to help the public and basically help the community, what are some of the other things that you enjoy working for the public sector versus working for the private sector?
Well, I'm one of those that went from private to public. And the thing with private, I think somebody also said, I think finance said, in private, you working for one particular company, right? And only you working for it's about the bottom line. Is the company making money or they're not making money? If they're not making money, the first thing they do, get rid of staff, right? Or the company I work for, they start moving stuff overseas, right? Start going to China, start going to Mexico. So we start eliminating people. But the public is the opposite. The public, I think finance or actually HR mentioned it. You know, public, we're not here to make money. Even the fees that you charge is just to cover what you're doing to serve the public. So what is rewarding is you, on the public side, you are doing for the public good, right? I'm here every day hoping that somebody is safe. You know, police is here to make sure you're safe. When we go out and do inspections at facilities to make sure that they follow all the rules, it's not really for my own consumption, but for everybody else, because I'm doing it on your behalf. So when I'm there, it's not about how much profit that the city makes or how much, you know, bonus that the CEO is gonna get. Here it's about me making sure that that business is following the rules, they've been fair, they're not taking advantage. So I think that's the rewarding part. And I think HR mentioned earlier also, in private, when I was there, you can work, you have a bonus of, let's say 30%. So that is my goal. I want to get to that 30%. Here, there's no such thing. But what it is, are we making sure that the people that we serve and are we keeping them safe? So for me, that's the big difference, that you see the public good when you're in the public sector and when in the private sector, even though you're doing good things, but it's about the bottom line, really.
From my experience as working for the public sector, then an entrepreneur business owner back to the public sector, the biggest thing is the impact. When you work for the public sector, the scope is much wider. The impact that your actions take influence a lot more people and impact a lot more people. The city of Vernon, 50,000, 55,000 people, they in turn go home, they in turn have their families, they in turn provide support other businesses. So the money multiplier principle, what it does to the Southern California economy is huge. When my teammates provide that kind of environment, the impact is not only it's local, it's countywide, it is statewide, but it's national and international. That is a wide scope, and you're not going to find that kind of scope in the private sector.
We also have Michael Shahada from our information technology division. So as you all heard, the public sector has opportunities for many different careers, IT being one of them. Here at the City of Vernon, IT is part of city administration. As you can see today, they help with all information technology needs for the city, emails, networks, presentations, meetings. So Mike has something he'd like to share.
Yeah, so thank you. So my name's Mike, and it's just to kind of touch on what Freddie was saying. It is a different kind of scope you work with when you're in the public sector. I started off working at Radio Shack, working on commission, and it's really tough having that a company that's focused on the bottom line. It's just a completely different mentality. Every minute of the day, you're just worried about keeping your job, and it's very hard to kind of move away from that position and try and experiment and do other things. I also worked at the cable company for a few years, and despite having a different expertise in like networking and computers, they didn't want to hear it. They just want you to do your job and just get out of there. And as long as you can knock out as many jobs as possible, that's all they cared about. Versus when I got into the public sector, it was more about providing a service, because everything's publicly funded, so you need to be as valuable as possible. So all of a sudden, they embrace the idea of coming up with new ideas and doing things that are somewhat out of your job description realm. They're more welcoming to you taking on more tasks than just strictly what your job description provided. And I found that as a huge opportunity, because in addition to just my normal, a path of being a network technician or data center technician, I was able to look into other things that weren't exactly on my job description. I was able to now work on the websites or other things that, yes, it's in the IT field, but if I were in the private sector, it's very difficult to kind of expand. And in the private sector, sometimes they kind of limit you on what you can do. They just want you to do your job and just get out of there. And it's very heavily focused on that bottom line, where here it's more about providing as much value as possible. And there's more of a kind of a workflow of like expanding on your career here. They want to take care of you and make sure that if you're providing a value, they want to keep you around. And it's not just a matter of keeping you where you're at and that's it. And they look internally. If there's opportunities, you are looked at, and it's just a different atmosphere working in the public sector. And that to me is why I've been here for 10 years now, because they support your ability to expand on even your own career, and they encourage your ability to grow, basically. So that's just all I wanted to add.
Okay, I got to get real for a minute. So I'll be 50 in a couple weeks, and I still want to be an orthopedic surgeon. I still wish I was the doctor for the LA Rams, but this working in local government has provided me stability. Not many local governments file bankruptcy, but private businesses do. You could lose your job. We have pretty good benefits. We have pretty good retirement. We don't get Social Security. We have our own retirement system, which is sort of still around. Hopefully it'll be around. And truly, I fell into being a city clerk. I had a pretty good salary when I was 23. I thought, okay, this is good. And then I realized the medical benefits, the health benefits. I had 2 children, like Zaina said. I still do have 2 children, but they're grown. And it allowed me the opportunity, here in Vernon, we're off every Friday. So it allows you the opportunity to get to that track meet at 3 o'clock on Friday. And honestly, that's kind of a big difference between public and private sector.
Thank you for coming. We are here for you today and in the future. We have business cards available. So if you decide later, you come up with some questions or you're interested in internships or other opportunities, reach out to us. You can call up city admin or Manny can connect you to each of us individually. But we're so happy that you're here, and you can tell people love what they do because we are, how much overtime. So yeah, unpaid overtime. We're here because we love what we do, and we really wanted to share this information with you. So thanks so much for coming, and please reach out to us in the future if you have other questions or further opportunities. Thanks.